Okay, good evening, everybody. How you doing out there in Facebook land and Zoom land? Welcome to our second rendition of Wisdom Wednesdays, where I feature Black male educators from around the world. You're in for an awesome and amazing treat. Tonight, we have none other than Dr. Kurtz Callands. What's up, my brother? How you doing?
Oh, hello. Good evening. It's an honor, it's a pleasure. What's happening there?
Yes, sir, man. So, we're gonna get right into it, man. First of all, how you doing today? It's Wellness Wednesday, as well as Wisdom Wednesday. So how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I always believe that we are either the O or the K that we're doing, So
Okay.
I'm doing okay. And I believe that wellness is just an everyday refresher,
Yes,
so
sir.
I'm doing pretty well. Thank you.
Okay, awesome and amazing. So before we discuss the craft and all the technical things, tell the viewers, who is Dr. Kurtz Callands? Who is that person? Who is that guy?
I'm a Black educator. That's number one, on a mission to really help children and mitigate the impacts of trauma. That's my DNA, since I was born. So I was born in Mount Airy, Philadelphia. People know it as Uptown, and grew up. First went to Catholic school, kicked out of Catholic school at a young age. Placed in, I was also retained and then placed in special education in a self-contained classroom for emotional support. And then had some phenomenal mentors that we're going to discuss this evening that really poured into me in football. Being enrolled in Mount Airy Bantams and Ivy Hill Saints, introduced to weightlifting. Those were my interventions, and the support from a phenomenal older brother and a mother that just stuck with me. And throughout just my existence on this earth, I knew that I always wanted to work with children, but I always wanted to work with children who experience adversity like I did. So that really drove me into my career of designing trauma-sensitive schools, and currently the principal of Foundations Behavioral Health Institution located in Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
Okay, well, you kind of answered a few of my things. You already talked about you wanted to work with kids because you were one of those kids, and that's awesome and amazing. Is there any particular, mentor or educator that you saw as a child that really drove you towards this work?
Not so much as male educators. It was more of the educators who were not in front of the class, but they were in front of the outdoor classroom on the block, on the corner. It was those individuals. It was the old heads. It was my brother. It was his crew. It was out there in Germantown and Horter, where we had the gym, the fitness place. So I'm in Germantown, lifting at the age of 12 years old, and they guided me and supporting me and really poured into me right and wrong. But also too, I have to give great praise to Coach Mike Singletary. I went to George Washington High School.
That's my guy.
Yeah. So Coach, there was a time frame. That was the end of my 11th grade year. There was a program at Villanova with some of the top scholars, and they wanted to submit my information to enter that summer program. And at first, I got accepted, and I was afraid. I was afraid to really compete with some of the best and brightest kids on the East Coast. And he poured into me. I played football there at George Washington, and 3 champs out of 4 years. We ain't
got to do all of that. We ain't got to do all of that. You know what I mean?
We were dominant.
That's another conversation.
He poured into me. He said, "You have to open the door for other Black males who may receive this opportunity. If you don't go in there and set the touchstone that here are some bright individual Black young men from the city of Philadelphia that can compete with the best and the brightest. And I listened to them, and that really resonated in my spirit, and I took that charge. And I think that's really what kind of inspired me and drove me, but also gave me the confidence to enroll in the Ivy League institution to earn my doctorate. So Coach Mike Singletary, man, was a great impact. And I cannot forget my algebra teacher at Washington, Mr. Craig Metcalf. So his son is Craig Metcalf Jr. is the principal.
Oh, okay, right. I know the son, right.
Yeah, but his father, and a quick story. So me and my friend, we in math class, and we talking about fighting this kid and everything, and how we gonna set up, how we gonna do it. And he really interrupted our conversation and was like, look, kid, stop all that foolishness. I don't want to go to no damn funeral, see your mom bend over the casket, just crying over your asses of the dumb choices that you guys are making right now. So we're gonna end that conversation right here. And me and my friend looked at each other and said, well, all right, it's time for math. But he did it in high school.
Wow, I did not know that Craig was a junior. I did not know that.
Yes. His dad, Mr. Metcalf, was a coach, created a tennis organization in Cheltenham and also in Mount Airy. So yeah, he played a very influential role in my experience in high school.
Okay, small world. So talk about, you attended, at PWI, right, Westchester University, as well as, the other place. You can talk about the other place too as well, University of Penn, right? How did those schools influence you to become the educator that you are?
Well, first, when I enrolled at Westchester, played football there, I was in the math. I was in the math department. And I was earning C's. It went all the way up to Calculus 3. And it was very hard with traveling with football Friday through Sunday. And when I joined the marvelous organization, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, they looked at my transcripts and they said, you're not the master of math. Like, what do you want to do with your life? I said I wanted to work with children, the at-risk population. So they said, why don't you matriculate into special education department? So I made a transition. I was the only Black male out of 250 students that were there. So I was pretty much almost like the spokesperson for our culture when it came to any topics about people of color. So that right there really installed the diligence on thinking before I speak, but the importance of sitting in the front of the class and absorbing the knowledge. But then it also taught me too, one thing is how to navigate in corporate America with a predominantly white population. So it gave me that experience at Westchester.
Okay. Shout out, I'd be remiss if I did not do this. You mentioned that organization, the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, which we are both members of the organization. Have to give a shout out tonight to Brother Kunta from KB Collections, who's one of our sponsors for this evening. Those of you looking for some amazing personalized furniture, leather goods, bags, shoes, he does it all. Check him out. It's right there on the flyer right there, KB Collections. Check him out on Instagram. He does some amazing work. So I had to get that in there, making sure we recognize our sponsors. Talk about your early years as an educator. Now, you mentioned math, you mentioned special education. Was there one particular subject that you taught mainly early on?
Yes. So when I was at Westchester, I got recruited by the North Penn School District. They were, in 2002, they just opened up the alternative program. As they opened up the alternative program, I was recruited and hired as their special education teacher that taught social studies. And social studies, I really dived into the history of also just ancient civilization, but mainly looking at the roots of our Black culture and matriculating that information and weaving it into the curriculum. I was empowered to do that. So I understood that when I was at Westchester, it was really the miseducation that was occurring there. Don't get me wrong, it's a great institution, But what I mean in the sense of that, I was taught so much about the Western world. It was almost like I didn't really learn about the institutions of Timbuktu and going deeper and all the different empires. Like that was not, that curriculum, that was not touched upon at all. And I knew this. So therefore, I made it an intrinsic motivator to really be self-taught. It's almost like I had to unteach myself and then relearn our true identity, but infuse that into our curriculum. So when I was at the North Penn School District, I worked with middle school and high school kids. And I remember of watching The Great Debater, and I set up my classroom with rows and they were debating, and I drew the box on the floor right there. And I had the kids debating because I knew they enjoyed arguing, but I said, I'm gonna give you structure behind it. And then we analyzed the amendments. And we said, okay, Wade versus Roe, let's look at number 8. Should the government have power over and determine if you can bear a child or not? And I had the kids debating, but they were diving in. And I was teaching them the critical thinking of how to analyze text, how to look at that text and analyze and apply it to real world application. Those are my early experiences as a special education / social studies teacher at the Northbridge School and North Penn School District.
I'm sure the students enjoyed that. How did the community, the school community, the administration, your peers, the parents appreciate your style and your methods and your ways?
There were, I think, because I really value building relationships with my kids and also my parents. I didn't have too much of a dispute. I did have one young lady. And she said, wow. And that was a great learning experience for me because she said, you are demonizing the whites so much. You make me feel bad to be white. And she said, I know there's some good things that we have done, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't like the way that you're teaching. And she shared that with the school counselor. And he spoke with me. And I did a self-reflection. I said, wow, you know what? Let me, I'm being too militant. I'm starting to become too militant and I have to be sensitive. I have to be sensitive to the other cultures in my classroom. Now, my parents of color, it was a different approach from them. They respectfully questioned, why am I out in Lansdale, North Penn? And you need to be in the city of Philadelphia. They, I had the parents said, you're great. Our children are going to be fine out here. But I think there's a need for you in the inner city. And I think that also inspired me to become an administrator in the city of Chester.
Yeah. And before we get into that, because I know I want to talk about that Chester word, it's interesting that you say that because I hear what the parents are saying. I hear that, but we need men of color in those spaces out there as well. Right? Although they say their children are going to be fine, we still need, it's almost like kind of be, what you see, and even for the white kids out there, because, with all the lack of inclusion and so on, that's a whole other conversation, but with lack of things going on in this country, if they don't see us in a positive light that you were projecting, all they're going to see is what they see in the media or what their parents may tell them at home, right? So for a lot of multiple reasons, definitely in the city where we need to be, where the majority of us are, but we do need pockets out there as well. So I just wanted to say, but I appreciate you. I remember when you're out there in North Penn, I was like, I know about North Penn, but I'm glad you're out there. I'm glad you survived, my brother. I'm glad you survived.
And the sad part was that some educators of color that were there really didn't advocate that much out in the open for our children. It was almost like they were so happy to be in the white picket fence. They were so happy to be included. Yeah. They were so happy to be a part of the golf club that was there. Yeah. So it was almost like it was blindfolds because they could only see what was taking place out there in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. It's a very affluent area. And what was going on with our children. We had children that moved into the district that were from the city, or we had a population of children that lived in a group home out there in Lansdale that were from the city.
Mhm.
So it was pretty much, they didn't speak out when there were incidents that occurred in the district involving race. And that
Mhm.
kind of challenged me a little bit. That rubbed me, because you would think that, okay, you're here to be an advocate for individuals who look like you.
Right. Yeah, you would think, but this is moving right along. So, Chester, you go to Chester next, right? Talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit. Talk about that a little bit.
Uh, Chester is the city of strong love. Strong love. I like to give a shout out on who actually planted the seed for me to come out there, is Miss Blackwell. Miss Blackwell, my line brother Sunni Blackwell, my homeboy played football with me, Sharif Blackwell, and Mr. Bernard Blackwell. But Mrs. Blackwell, rest in peace, was a phenomenal math teacher at Chester Upland High School.
Mhm.
And said, when are you boys, talking about me and Sunni, major in education, when are you coming to the city? When are you coming to Chester? So I was at a job fair for North Penn on recruiting teachers of color. And I met Dr. David Clark, who is now the CEO of Chester Community Charter School. And me and him, really, we sat down and we conversed and share ideas and visions, and was given the opportunity to be an assistant middle school principal there. And it was some rough times. People watch the show like The Wire, in Baltimore City, it was parallel. It was parallel. So when you have children who are in 8th grade that are driving cars from individuals that abuse drugs, that use vernacular phrases, crackheads, and they were switching their cell phones and SIM cards and everything, and paying for their mother electricity, walking into parties, and next thing you know, as soon as they walk out, there's shootings that are occurring. And it was a survival mentality with our children that were there in Chester. And with that experience, I knew I had a stern background on holding kids accountable. But there's certain individuals, certain males that were alpha males, that approach can really cost you your life. And I knew I had to take a different approach on connecting with the love. I had to hit them with the love. I had to hit a couple of alpha male students there that, look, I care about you. I don't want to see you on a t-shirt. So me holding you accountable is trying to elevate you to the next level. But I break it down and I say, right from wrong. If you cursing out that teacher and everything, right from wrong. You know what to do. Just me and you talking, all that. Yeah, but I ain't feel like doing math. I said, I get it. I said, but we are not going to take it to the level where you're going to disrespect yourself, your family. You come from good people. So I was able to, I was very grateful to really navigate and propel my career at Chester Community Charter School. I was promoted as the elementary principal. Did some great things there with the staff. Then I joined their management team, where we opened up Camden Community Charter School and Atlantic City Community Charter School. So I was in New Jersey for a number of years, really on learning how to design literacy-based schools. And I used all that information and infused that in my own children. And then I came back to Pennsylvania with Chester Community Charter School as the middle school principal of that school. So I was in Chester for 7 years, and my graduate chapter, Epsilon Pi, is based in Chester. So I'm very active and just enjoy doing a lot of community service in Chester.
So you went right from being in the classroom to an administrator. Did you get a chance to do any other, say, coaching or mentoring with youth directly in your track as an educator?
Yes, I did. When I was at North Penn, I took an opportunity to become an administrator at the Devereux Institution in downtown Pennsylvania, working with young men that were adjudicated. And when I was there, I was hired as an administrator. And Governor Randall made some budget cuts and cut the budget of sending children to residency, which impacted me as being laid off. So I was a first-year administrator and laid off in the middle of the year. I was livid. I was heated. I was heated at the system. System says you want Black males, you want Black educators. Here I am, but you cut me in the middle of the year.
Right.
So I reverted to we were doing MMA training when I was at North Penn. And I said, all right, I'm gonna go full-time in an MMA training, but alleviating and directing that frustration towards the pugilistic arts did nothing but made me more deadlier, more violent. Because when I feel those emotions, I wanna traject that on somebody else. So it was almost like somebody bumped me. I wish an N would bump me. So that really didn't help my spirit at all. It took E9 Baptist Church going to a men's Bible study, a Wednesday men's Bible study that really allowed me to be vulnerable and understand and really dismantle the facade that under enhancing your spirituality is something of strength, not of weakness. So the facade growing up was, oh, grandma will grab the Bible and be like, oh, Lord, I'm gonna pray for them. Don't go out there in them streets, don't do this. And it's like, Granny, we don't believe in all that. You know, we believe in the man. But I attended E9 Bible study every Wednesday and was around some bright young brothers who really broke down that it's God's mission and to walk by faith and not by sight. And I didn't understand that. And I didn't understand what was occurring in my life. So they had an organization called the Ball of Christ, where I was a basketball coach. And we had the Wednesdays Bible study that really helped us to break down the Bible and to teach it to our players. So I was in charge of a high school group of students as a basketball coach. And I mean, we just poured into it. I did workshops on just cultural relevance, on self-esteem, motivation. It was really God's work. And my team, we won the championship.
Okay.
That was the most fruitful experience because there are times that in order for God to bring you closer to him, he got to break you down so you can actually look up and see who can pick you up.
Okay. So let me do this real quick. We're going to talk about your project you're working on right now. I'm going to just slide this over a little bit so the audience can see that there, right there is the book, right? Let's talk about your book a little bit. Dr. Kurtz Callands in his book. Yeah, just talk about the project. Talk about the project. Talk about that a little bit. Tell the people what they need to know. What's the name? What inspired you? Just go.
Oh, thank you, man. The inspiration came from when I was at Chester.
Name of the book again? What's the name of it again?
It's a principal's mission. It's a manual. It's a training manual. It's a train the trainer manual on how to design trauma-informed care schools.
Wow. Okay.
This is actually the first ever that actually gives you step-by-step guidelines on actually what to do, what to say, resources that are there. In addition to, I have PowerPoint presentation slides. You can kind of see the slides that I've done. It talks about the pros and the cons. This is a 9-part trauma-informed care training series that I conducted at Carson Valley. Carson Valley is in Montgomery County. In addition to, it shows I have in here our pre and post surveys that I use to measure competencies, to see if they acquired the knowledge or if I had to do a spiral review on certain content area. So the inspiration for the book came from, I wanted to dismantle out of school suspension pipeline and the prison pipeline. And I wanted to dismantle that, and also the overrepresentation of children of color in special education. Because there are schools, and based on the district, each student that they spend is ranging from maybe $8,000 to $20,000 per pair. It depends on the district. So over in Chester, you're looking at around from $8,000 to $10,000 per student. Now, if that child has an IEP, that institution is now receiving $40,000 per child. Even if the child is identified on receiving speech services. So the problem is that that institution or that school may still be spending $8,000, but what are they doing with the other $32,000? So with that being said, every time I did a re-entry meeting, my children coming back from my out of school suspension, it was always shared with me some forms of adversity, some forms of mental obstacles or high levels of crime or trauma that my children were experiencing, and the parents were sharing that information. So I approached it with my school counselor. I said, this is all trauma. All our children are experiencing traumatic events. Can you screen? Can you screen our children? No, I can't touch that. I'm not clinically licensed. So now I said, you know what? Okay. Let me do like a pilot study and really measure the competencies of my staff. And the results showed that 98% did not have a background knowledge of recognizing the signs of a child that experienced traumatic events and also how to approach the child. It was more of, you're the Black man, you're the Black male educator, you're the Black principal, I want you to be punitive. And then when you be punitive, they better come back reformed. That never worked, because one thing's for sure, you can't hurt a child that's been hurt. You can't perpetuate that cycle. Mm-hmm. So I look for professional development for my staff. And it was very limited on really touching mental health and also mental wellness, because my staff were experiencing burnout and vicarious trauma through also working with our population. So I said, you know what? All right, I'm going to enroll into University of Penn, and I'm going to do the research, and I'm going to design my own manual. So my committee chair, Dr. Caroline Watts, she said, look, this is going to be the first. There's not too many models out there that really gives a step-by-step and concentrates on this content. So we worked diligently. Also, I had a wonderful committee, Michelle Richardson, Dr. Gina, I had some research coach there. That was Mike and Mary Yee, Mike Shakormitz. There was phenomenal support there at Penn. And we created, with their support and their guidance, a research evidence-based model trainings examining, first of all, what is trauma and what does it look like? Mm-hmm. How to mitigate its impact on children. Looking at the neuroscience in regards of what is neuroplasticity on reshaping the brain. So we were able to break it all down and really design a professional development training manual that's there. And I knew that I wanted, my intrinsic motivation was that, okay, I'm incorporating this in my school where I'm at currently over the past 5 years, where trauma-informed care based. But how can I get this mission, this vision in other institutions? So that was the intrinsic motivator. Also, too, I cannot forget my personal experience with trauma, with childhood trauma. Right. So that right there was also a driving force.
Right. Well, listen, you just listen. For those out there in the world, you hear this young brother doing his thing. I know he's already getting bookings and places and whatnot. You need to bring this brother in, get the book, right? The link is on the YouTube page, the link is on the Facebook page, whatnot. We'll drop that information at the end as well, put it inside the chat for those that can see it. And definitely book this brother, have him come on into your place and talk about how it's Dr. Trauma is his other name. So come on in and get Dr. Trauma to come on in there and deal with your babies and teach the staff, right? Teach the staff how to deal with these babies and whatnot. Definitely. So the main thing that you want the readers to get from this is strategies, techniques on how to analyze the students and create systems to work with trauma inside their schools. Is there something I'm missing, or is that pretty much it in a nutshell?
Well, it also explores, it goes into the rationale of the why. What really drove me to create this manual. And then it gives authentic feedback from the individuals that participated in my research. Mm-hmm. So I was blessed with a phenomenal group of educators at Carson Valley, man. They do awesome work there. It was around 55 participants. under the leadership of Dr. Davis and his whole staff that are there. And they were giving me authentic feedback and practical. So I was able to apply the theory into the real world, but then give them the tools and have them implement those approaches, those strategies, how to create those sensitive environments, and then come back to my next workshop and kind of like have a think tank. What worked, what didn't work? What are some interventions that work with, there's a difference with gender on their approach. So we examine that. So my book goes in detail on in regards of what worked with, there's a gender difference of how trauma impacts our females and our males. So inside my book, it talks about those experiences. It gives the authentic feedback from the participants. So this manual was more of a journey. Come and walk into my journey of how to begin that process and how to incorporate that in your school, but also how to conduct a needs assessment in the beginning. And before I even start the research, I sat down and conduct focus groups. I conduct focus groups with their support staff, their teachers, and also their administrators. And I asked them, what do you want? What do you want out of the trainings? What are you looking for? I was also able to identify learning styles and doing an interest inventory of how do you learn? How would you like to learn? How would you like to be engaged in the curriculum? So that helped me to analyze and take a look at my pedagogical approach in regards of like, okay, I just can't stand here and just give them a lecture. No, that's not at all. We got to break this down in increments.
Listen, don't give them too much for free. Right now, they're getting all this for free. I don't want you to go through all the steps in your manual and whatnot. I know you got about 8 or 9 pillars, I guess, in there or whatever. You ain't got to say all of them. Go get the book. Get the brother in your school, in your community, organization, church, whatever. He's coming everywhere doing this thing. Any other announcements? Any other special things going on that you got going on? With your work, personal, the book, tours, whatever.
Yes. Right now in the city of Philadelphia, we've been hit pretty hard with the high level of violence in our city. And I'm working with a couple of charter schools in Southwest Philadelphia, working and doing workshops with children who have experienced high levels of losing a loved one, community violence, substance abuse, witnessing separations, incarcerations with their parents. So I'm currently working, I'm a full-time principal. After school, I'm working with a couple of charter schools on beginning the healing process. How do we begin to heal? And then in addition, working with their staff on how to reciprocate some of those interventions, but also how to build high levels of empathy. There's a difference between the sympathy and empathy. That's there. But being empathetic and being vulnerable, because in order to heal others, we have to heal first. Mm-hmm. So helping the staff learning how to heal. So I'm currently right now working with a couple of charter schools on helping them to begin the healing process with their children. And I do have aspirations at the end of the pandemic. I want to be able to present my research in Paris. So in Paris, there's a big trauma conference that takes place, that like an annual conference. So I want to be able to kind of present my work, my research there of what we do in the States, and then kind of spend a week or 2 weeks out there and kind of study some of their models that are there and look at how could we integrate that in our cities across America. That's
heavy. You want to go to Paris, and I'm sure you've done the research, so I'm going to get into all that, but I guess is there a level of trauma? What we're going on right now in the city of Philadelphia, I mean, worldwide trauma has been, should be at the top, what we should be doing and dealing with right now throughout our urban areas, suburban areas, everywhere, rural areas. I guess, is the trauma, the percentage of people that are affected by trauma there as high as it is here in the States, similar?
Well, you're not comparing oranges to oranges in regards that is taking place there. they have levels of adversity, but it's different. It's different communities. And hold on one second there.
Hey, I understand you got to do your thing. You're at home. I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah,
Listen.
yeah,
Okay.
there's different environments. There's different environments. What I'm looking for there are some overlaps, especially when it comes to the neuroscience, because science is science and biology is biology. We're all human beings, but really looking at those feel-good chemicals, and how do we help children to identify and activate those chemicals? I always, I tell my students, like, all right, we use that slang phrase of dope, but it's like, do you know that comes from dopamine? That when you achieve something, when you check something off, that's a chemical that goes straight to your brain and it's the feel-good hormone as there. And, so I'm looking for some of those parallels, but then, poverty is poverty. So poverty impacts us in similar ways, but in also different ways. So I'm looking for always different ways of just building up that toolbox.
Listen, shout out to wherever you're working with after school in Southwest Philadelphia. We appreciate you as a native of Southwest Philadelphia. Trust me, I know that there's trauma everywhere, but definitely in that part of the city, it's been experiencing trauma like you could ever imagine, right? So definitely shout out for you and to you, and kudos for you to doing that work you're doing out there, because it's definitely needed. Any final thoughts?
Is mental wellness. I totally despise a mental illness, but mental wellness is a daily practice that we need. And let's keep that always in the forefront of maintaining that with our families, but then each one teach one. Once we acquire that knowledge, it's time to go back and heal our family. Because when we think about what happened with us with chattel slavery, we never received no therapy and no counseling after slavery. And Reconstruction was more deadlier than slavery, but we never received that. So what happened was that we normalized that pain. And then as we normalized that pain, we cultivate it into a culture. So it's really unlearning the things that we have ingrained and developed as survival. We use it as survival. So, when you see, it's totally unfortunate if acts of violence and people are having their cell phones, we're desensitized, because that is how we almost try to cope with the levels of stress. So I think that my aspirations and what I want to leave for our viewers is that we have to go back and heal our families, heal our communities, heal our neighborhoods. And the way that we do that is through consistent love and structure, but then also activities and engagement. So when we see, our young men and they on the block, understand that they really looking for something to do. So since you go into your job, why don't you go to your job and ask if there's any internships and give the young fellas on the corner an internship, and you guide and you mentor them. So therefore, that's how you do that. And then you teach them. Let's get into the real estate, and you show them that. So I think that we have to rediscover. Our true identity of just our ancestry, but I'm talking about the ancestry of kings and queens.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You just dropped a whole lot right there, man. And I could comment on multiple things, but ask you for your final thoughts. So I won't go into all those things right there. I'm just going to say, listen, to those out there in the world, if you need a young brother, young, strong Black man to come into your school, come into your community, come into your church, come into your home, reach out to Dr. Trauma, my man, Dr. Kurtz Callands, to come in and show the book again.
Yes, and people, you can follow me. Let's see, I put it in the chat. So I'm on Instagram, Dr. Trauma Trainer on Instagram. So you can follow me there. And then my book is on Amazon. So I'm gonna see if I can zoom in, Principles Mission. And it's a wonderful manual. It is a beautiful, beautiful manual, because this is our story. And then all my people that are in the city of Philadelphia, we're not gonna give you the answer, but can you identify that high school right there? Yeah, can you identify that high school in Philadelphia? That's in the background.
I'll tell you what, the first person to drop that inside the Facebook post. If you dropped it in the Facebook post, I'll sponsor the book for you. How about that? That's coming from Peace. I will sponsor a book for you. So when you see this video, whether you're seeing it live or you catch it later, the first person that I see answer that question and put it inside the Facebook chat, I will sponsor your book for you. And you got to give me the answer too, because I think I know what school it is, but I don't want to say.
Right. Excellent. So
many that look like that. I mean, I can say a couple of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, so
Peace and blessings, and thank you for this opportunity and this space to allow me just to kind of share my story.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, always. And listen, all those out there in the Zoom world, in the Facebook world, that will conclude our show for tonight. Wisdom Wednesdays, the life of a Black male educator in America. Tonight we feature Dr. Kurtz Callands. Please reach out to that brother. Everyone, be blessed. Peace up. Hold on for a second, Doc.
Yes, sir.